Chipped away, just short of mid-wicket. Just in the air for some of its passage, nearly carries to Garena. Oh, and there's an overthrow. That's a sloppy start. Just the lob back to the keeper, and it's gone through for a run.
Yeah, Tommy Nickbell, he does have a tendency to plant that front foot, and that'll excite Lungengidi, particularly with the shape he's getting. Here's an example of how he plants that front foot and then well out in front of himself, pops it in the air. Garena, who's not with the gloves on today, took a little bit of time, then thought he'll throw it to Quinton de Kock, but maybe he didn't practice his throwing as much as he should have before the game started. But have a look at this front foot. There we can see how he closes and then plays around it, and that can put you into some deep trouble, particularly with a swinging delivery. So South Africa and Lungengidi will be eyeing that out as a possibility to get a wicket up front.
As you say, Sean, there's just been a bit of shape into the left-hander, the first two deliveries. Now he's got Lytton Dust, the right-hander, with two slips in place. He'll hope to keep that swing, which will be away from the right-hander. ...27 years of age. He's becoming a sweeter timer of the ball. He's really becoming top 10 in the world white ball cricketer is Lytton Dust. Watchful beginning, as they were at Supersport Park when South Africa bowled a good delivery. They were very happy to assess the situation, assess the conditions, and build the platform that enabled those to come in. Here's the surface that you inspected earlier, Sean.
Yeah, with that footage, it looks a little bit worse than how it'll play. I mean, we see all the cracks, and it's almost like a little bit of a jigsaw puzzle. But that's stock standard when you're playing one-day cricket here at the Wanderers. They leave not as much moisture in the surface as in the test matches, and that's why it tends to crack. So it would probably be like at end of day 2 or day 3 surface that you would get in the test. But in general, it's lovely to bat on. The ball will come on nicely, particularly in the second innings. You think after the sun's baked on it for 3 or 4 hours, and then the extra roll at the midway break.
Just might have picked up, you saw Lungengidi handing his arm guard to mid-off. Lytton Dust just requesting that the white arm guard be taken off Lungengidi's front arm. Makes it hard to focus on the white ball.
That once happened to Kirkley Ambrose.
Dean Jones, what a silly thing to do.
It was a very silly thing to do. It gets your fast bowlers a little bit fired up. You can understand, I suppose, the white ball coming out, if there's something else white close to the wrist. I think he has no issue whatsoever if it was a pink one or a slightly darker one.
Coped it with a little bit of extra bounce nicely, but he's very much within himself here in Ngidi. We saw him not bowling much higher than 135 in the first game, and here his speeds, the quickest ball in this over has been 135, the slowest 128, so he's hovering around that 130 mark. I wonder if he's 125 his slowest. I'm just wondering whether he's just carrying a little bit of something, because he's certainly not up to top speed.
It's interesting to know. I must admit, often in a one-day international, that first over I was always searching for control, so I might not have pushed myself to try and bowl as quick as possible. I wanted to land it as often in the right area, and then as you get into your spell. But I'm sure, having asked him to take his wristband off and now stopped him halfway through his run-up, he must be burning up a bit of fury inside that body of his.
He's going to let one go soon. We'll see 140. The end of the opening over, 3 from it. No great pace in the surface, certainly not being tested by Ngidi, and a little bit of swing early morning, but nothing alarming by way of movement. They were very good at Supersport Park, 95 for the first wicket, and they've got a lot of experience in that upper order. Shakib Al Hassan was quite brilliant in his man of the match performance. Mushfiqur missed out, but maybe today's his day. And Mamadullah, as always, may anchor if there's problems further down the order. So 3 for none at the first over. It's a long way up to the top of the stand from down his work down the field, but it's a very good morning to Atali Khan.
Good morning, Brett. Good morning, Sean. Good morning, all. And looking forward to a good morning, especially from Bangladesh. One up in the series, and we'll be hoping the kind of start they had in that first match. I think what was important, yes, runs was important, but they did not lose early wickets. You need to survive the white new ball, and if you can see the white new ball off, then runs are there to make.
Here is Rabada. Goes to Dus. There is some carry. That's more what South Africa want to see. A bit of pace and bounce.
I think the key here, Brett, is to analyze things as quickly as possible. Now, you see that delivery, and it looks beautiful. It's fantastic. It carries through nicely. There's some movement through the air. There's some movement off the seam. KG needs to now be aware of the length that he has to hit. It can't be back of a length. That is too short. That invariably will beat the outside edge. If he can get it a meter or 2, or even maybe 3 meters fuller, that would be ideal as he settles in.
About there.
I think that's still too short.
Just because it didn't find the edge.
Yeah, it was a lesson I learned in England. I had the first test match I ever played there. I beat the bat often. And then Bob Wilmer told me a touch fuller. It's getting better and better as he goes along.
The other thing from a Bangladeshi perspective, Lytton just seems to be hanging a little bit leg side of it. It's beating him on the outside quite comfortably.
I think there is some movement here for sure. It's happening in the air, and then there is after it pitches, it goes away from the right-hander. So it will take a little bit time, and I think it's about not only the bowlers thinking of hitting the top of the off stump, but also batters trying to leave the one which are away. Look at that. He tried to play that. Now, it's a little bit fuller. That's what you wanted, Sean, but it had to be a little bit more straighter.
Yeah, but once again, no big stride, and that's another thing, Brett, is you work out the perfect length for the surface, but then also adjust it for each batter. So someone like a Marvin Atapatu went so far back in his crease that I would want to be a half meter fuller than my good length on this pitch. And Lytton does the same. He doesn't get that big positive stride. Tamim Iqbal does.
On the pads, clipped away, looking for the real miracle ball, the big swinger, and it's clipped away nicely for the first boundary of the morning.
Looking to make the adjustments, looking to get things in the right place. He searched for the fuller one, but unfortunately for KG Rabada, he's now fired it down the leg stump. That one probably would have clipped leg stump, but he'll be disappointed with that. He's a better bowler. He knows how to make those adjustments as he goes along. That's a bit of a freebie.
It's a probing opening over from Rabada. 2 done. It's 7 for none. South Africa have made mention in the press conference after the game, and certainly Temba Bavuma at the toss this morning, is how disappointed they were that the new ball couldn't strike. It was 20 overs before they got a wicket. Out of that 314 for 7, that great opening partnership, Tamim Iqbal's 40 and a 50 from Lytton Das enabled Yasser Ali and Shakib Al Hassan to attack the middle overs. It was an outstanding batting performance, and these two played no small role. Lytton Das and Tamim Iqbal saw off the new ball and enabled that middle order to play with freedom. Here's Ngidi trying to build up a head of steam. Goes to Tamim. There's the bounce that all of South African quicks are looking for. Glove height as it spat off a length.
Yeah, that's the kind of a line and the length that the bowlers would be targeting. And it's this, again, that extra bounce. Good seam position. It comes back in. Hits him on the glove. Or maybe a touch short still. Could have been a little bit more fuller. Invite him to drive through the cover area and just try to open the gap between the bat and the pad. Look how high it has hit him.
In the air, it's going to be out. It's going to be taken, as simple as you like. The extra bounce from Ngidi, it's caught the shoulder of the bat and it's looped to point, and that's an early strike for South Africa.
There's plenty of assistance. We saw the last one wrap the gloves. This one bounces steeply as well. And the nature of this opening partnership, Tamim Iqbal is the guy who will get forward. He'll plant his front foot, look to be getting onto that front foot. And that's why that length from Ngidi is good. It bounces steeply, takes the shoulder of the bat, and you can't get an easier catch for Keshav Maharaj at backward point. Just a few steps in, waltzes in, takes it comfortably. And South Africa, they need to bounce back in this match, and they've started off well with Lungi Ngidi striking, getting there first. 7 for 1. Tommy Iqbal goes for just the 1 run.
A different day, a different match, a different approach. It's got a little bit more bounce this surface, and as you said, Sean, about adjusting to a particular batsman, Littendas might hang back in the crease, and Marvin Atapatu might hang back in the crease. Tamim gets well forward, so that length's not so bad to him because the bounce undid him.
That's perfect. He will push hard. He'll be out in front of himself. We saw in the last match we had the interception points of the 2 batters. Littendas was very much later. He waits for the ball to come to him. He stays on that back foot. Not Tommy Iqbal. He plants that front foot and looks to lunge. Almost gets those sparks into your face. And that's why if it's a decent length and you get in extra bounce, it can do the trick. Here's the big man for Bangladesh and the big wicket for South Africa.
A very different situation for Shakib Al Hassan. It's not about the freedom to enable him to decide to attack early. Now he's got to absorb a bit of pressure because he's out there against the new ball. But what numbers those are.
Center.
It's about how he handles himself early on. Remember, 95 runs opening partnership was in the last match, not this time around. So be facing up to some really good stuff from the bowlers early on. And that will be the key, how to bat in that first half an hour or so. You got to pick up the right ones to leave and pick up the right ones to play. Yes, there is extra bounce. And you got to make sure that you go right behind it. Have a look at that first delivery that he plays. He knows it's coming back, but then just leaves it straight to the keeper.
More importantly, did you see the little shuffle? You got the little shuffle on for the first delivery down the wicket. I'll ask you, Atta, what will his game plan in these situations? Does he go a little bit more reserved and more watchful, or does he continue to be positive?
I think once he plays a few deliveries, then he'll get the hang of it, what needs to be done. He's an aggressive player. He's got a very aggressive mindset. Have a look at that bounce. Comes back in, and he, in no man's land. He doesn't know what's going on. He just looks up and it's spooned up straight into the hands of Keshav Maharaj. Lovely delivery. Extra bite in that delivery. Extra bounce does the trick.
Got a thought for both of you. In South Africa's team selection, we were speaking about the unusual fact that they picked 2 spinners at Wanderers. Not second guessing them, but you've just seen this extra bounce in the first 2 overs, and you've got the tallest man probably in world cricket now that you've left out from Supersport Park. Wouldn't Janssen have enjoyed a bowl on this?
Yeah, I think if you said to me Janssen's first spell, South Africa would love to grab that, but I suppose it was this last 20 overs of the innings that they felt like they lacked something, and they didn't really have maybe a bit of mystery, and that's maybe why they've gone for Shamsi. But 100%, while their ball's new, it continues to bounce like we've seen from Lungi in this over, and they would have loved to have his service. A 7 point.
Good start this by South Africa. The tone setter was the wide off the first ball. They put that to bed and found a length and found a good pace. Ngidi up to the mid-130s, and he's got some really good bounce, and it's that bounce that was the undoing of Tamim Iqbal. Shoulder of the bat coming forward, simple catch to Maharaj. Big wicket, South Africa. So very different. The 95-run first wicket partnership of Friday has now been forgotten because already it's been broken here. Here's Rabada. Squirts off the outside half down towards third man. That your length, Sean?
And that's the length I like for KG to Littendas. I think that's the perfect length. Just getting him pushing forward brings the 2 slips into play. And if you get that ball to misbehave or shape a little bit more, the slips are in business.
Now, if there was a chink in the Shakib armour on Friday night in that magnificent innings, it was when they went head height, throat height. Do you think we'll see a bit of that early?
I think it definitely would be part of the plans. I think that in many ways they would like the opportunity to put 2 men back, because he's not one of those guys just going to sway out of the way. He'll look to take it on. I'm sure they'll get one in early.
This does look a different picture altogether, just compared to the ones what we saw in the first match. That one looked a little bit more flatter. Ball was coming nicely onto that, but definitely different conditions here. Ball is moving, it's seaming. You've already spoken about the bounce, so you need to change your method, how you bat, especially early on.
In the air and taken. Playing to the onside, leading edge. It's a loop away to the offside, but Garena had to make ground, and he's taken a good catch. Despair for those Bangladeshis, because Shakib is gone for naught, and the visitors are in trouble at 8 for 2.
It's the extra bounce again, the hard kookaburra, the pronounced seam, and on the surface, South Africa's bowlers are getting the ball to stand up sharply. It's the leading edge, and a pitch where it is bouncy, you have to try and play as straight as possible. You can't afford to be turning it to the one side. He turns that bat too early, gets the leading edge. A good catch in the end by Garena. He was getting in as close as he possibly could to cut off singles. Popped over his head, he adjusted, he had the sun to deal with, and that's a massive blow for South Africa. The hero for Bangladesh from the last game goes without scoring, 8 for 2.
It's just the bounce. The bounce that was absent at Supersport Park has proved to be the undoing of the two Bangladeshis here at Wanderers.
I think having a look at what Shakib Al Hasan did, you mentioned, Sean Pollock, that early on you got to target down the ground, mid-on, mid-off. So he's just trying to close the face of the bat a little bit too early. And obviously the bounce also. Difficult conditions, and they lose a very, very important wicket of Shakib Al Hasan. Disappointment in the crowd. Shoaib Ali, he is everywhere. Team goes, he follows the team, and high hopes, but at the moment repair work to be done, and in comes Mr. Dependable Mushfiqur Rahim, who missed out in the first one-day international. Not an easy pitch to bat on. A lot of hard work to be done here.
Here's the numbers for Mushfiqur Rahim. Very good record, approaching 7,000 runs. 232nd match. I mean, they've got so much experience in this top six in the Bangladesh batting lineup, and they're going to need all that experience this morning, because they've got a very different situation, very different conditions from Supersport Park the other evening. An extra slip has been posted in the corner, and they've got a 7-2 offside field as Rabada goes to Mushfiqur.
I think this is a challenge, and it's always going to be for Shakib Al Hasan. When he bats in the test matches, often it would have been in the middle order, and even growing up playing for Bangladesh, he was started in the middle order. It's the adjustment to go at number 3, and it's fine when you've got flatter surfaces in Bangladesh or some of the flatter surfaces around the world. But technique-wise, you'll always be challenged on, say, a quick wicket in England, South Africa or Australia. And I think he's just been caught a little bit unawares. You can't be affording to flick that as square as yours. You've got to try and keep that bat as straight as possible up front.
You speak about batting techniques, Sean, and it's already noticeable where Mushfiqur is looking to play Rabada from. His feet are between the two creases. He's not getting forward.
Yeah, it was something that we actually used to always be aware of. Obviously, with the amount of cricket we played with Jacques Ellis, we knew where he loved to score his first 5 or 10 runs in a one-day international. And he'd like to just get it down to third man, just knock it in the gully area. And there wasn't often people who squashed that area for him. There wasn't often a team that would select and put a person at a fourth slip to make sure he couldn't. And South Africa have done that. 8 for 2.
Super start by the home side, having to win, not only to keep the series alive, but the desperate lack of points South Africa have in the ICC Cricket World Cup Super League standings. Bangladesh atop that log, South Africa way down in 10th position. India already through because they're hosting, so you've got to get yourself in the top 7. South Africa are way off that. Two talismanic players already dismissed. The two left-handers, Tamim Iqbal, the captain, and the all-rounder Shakib Al Hasan, the man of the match from the other evening. Here's Ngidi, who's tasted success. There is certainly perturbing bounce for these Bangladeshi batsmen.
the average bounce in the first 5 overs in the first ODI. These are the comparisons. Now have a look at that. Have a look at keep your eye on how far it is from above the stumps. Just a bit more this time around. And that's the reason why bowlers have decided to just pitch it in that good length area to ensure that if they get a steep bounce, and then they're in business. They've already picked up 2 wickets.
Good leave. I think we're going to see more of that as they try and rebuild this partnership.
I think if you look closely of how these two bat, Liton Kumar Das and Mushfiqur Rahim, they don't really come and try to reach for the ball. They're waiting in the crease. But if you look at what did Shakib Al Hasan and Tamim Iqbal did, they come and reach out and try to go and try to play off the front foot, which is at times difficult, especially in these conditions.
Beauty, beauty. Caught him on the crease and there was a hint of movement.
I think South Africa have adjusted nicely. Got the initial bonus of picking up those early wickets, but they'll be feeling really comfortable about the job at hand now. They realise there's assistance. We saw in the last game a lot of seam positions from Lungi Ngidi trying to get the ball to nip back at the right-handers. But have a look at that one. He's trying to shape that away. He wants to bring those slips. He wants to get the away movement. So it's a different game plan. Not trying to cramp them up for space. It's now trying to take wickets. And there's enough in the surface for that game plan to be backed up.
Good hand, good hand. Importantly, the left-hand side of the backward point fielder, Maharaj. And that's good too, because whilst they obviously mindful they're 2 down, they want to keep that board ticking, and sharpness on the single, preventing it. It's good cricket from South Africa.
Always good, particularly to a right-hand batsman when you're right-arm seamer, to have a left-hander at backward point for that exact reason. Strong arm goes out. Often a lot of balls go behind square, get squirted in that area. And that was a good stop. Keep the pressure on the batters.
The counter to that, Sean, is often, and we're going back to one of the best there ever is in the field, Jonty Rhodes. He would be at an angle, almost gully angle, so that he would be always going to his right, and then the ability to dive to his right, get his knees and be up in the momentum or going towards the non-strikers end.
We used to call him the rubber man, because as he went down, he almost like he bounced straight up. But yeah, he was just brilliant. I mean, he took fielding to the next level. It was probably as good, I would have to define it, as a stopper. He didn't get past the goalkeeper at backward point. There might have been better guys at picking up the ball and hitting the stumps, but as far as a stopper in that position, he was brilliant.
Oh, over the top and 4. There were cries of catch it, and it went close to extra cover, but it was hit very sweetly for a boundary. It's 12 for 2.
Yeah, no surprise to see that disappointment from Lungi. I think the over was superb, the length that he hit. The only ball that you're going to be able to hit away with a bit of freedom on the surface now is if it's short and wide, and that one was. And that's why Liton Das's eyes, I mean, lit up and just popped it over the infield. First boundary of the day.
That curse that bedeviled South Africa in the first ODI, Sean, the last ball of the over boundary, lives on.
Yeah, you don't want them to get in a bit of an issue about it. Let's try and put it behind them.
Here's Rabada.
And have a look at how he played that delivery. It was close onto the stumps, but he realized that it's bouncing, so he just lets it go over the top of the stumps. So this is good technique from Mushfiqur Rahim. Have a look at that. That's not by much, but still decides to leave it. And even you see it going straight to the keeper without touching the stumps, that's a good lead.
In the air, Brown past backward point. There's the dive. That's a very good piece of fielding. They're back for 2.
Yeah, that's brilliant from Lungi. He'll be a little bit hot under the collar, having bowled some overs, but still the energy to get around and not only to make the initial save, but have the presence of mind to make the adjusted save as well. Short and wide, that one. AGB want to be tighter on the stumps.
The default, as Sean said earlier, is to go back of a length, but on this surface with that extra bounce, you want to be fuller. They're just inspecting. There's the save. And they've put that to bed quickly.
Yeah, you talked about the technique and the way that delivery by Mr. Fagur was left, and it's not something that you'd have grown up doing much of in Bangladesh, because you can't at times trust the bounce. A lot of Australian batsmen will leave the ball in this fashion. So have a look. It's a decent length delivery, but you take your bat up and out the way. And that's something that you only really learn on bouncy surfaces, whereas on the flatter ones you often see the guys just pull it like a curtain out the way and let the ball go through. So that's what you do learn as you go around the world, just to trust different techniques, and you can trust the bounce at the Wanderers. It's a foolish length. That's probably hitting the top of off in Bangladesh. You're looking to play at that, but to take the bat way out of the way, often like someone like Matthew Hayden used to do.
Clipped away with not a great deal of conviction by Mushfiqur. Thought it might have just been thigh pad, wasn't the case. Again, he indicates it's the extra bounce that's unsettling.
I think what has happened and helped the Bangladesh team to get used to this condition is that they've started to play on green top wickets in domestic competition for the last couple of years. And that has helped them grow in confidence and get used to this condition and get used to the bounce. Even in Mirpur, home of cricket in Dhaka, and end of the over, 15 for 2. And in that last series against Afghanistan, where we played 3